because audits take a while. Karma may not be fast, but it's on time. I read that somewhere. I don't say that to brag, only to illustrate the importance of holding government and the people elected to run it accountable. As I later continued to campaign for higher office, I made fighting corruption a central feature of my platform. This was one of the many things that didn't change when I ran again for the United States Senate in 2007. In fact, the only thing that did change during that race was my party affiliation. That year, after a few months of meetings with representatives from the Republican Party, I decided to join up. At the time, I felt that my values were more aligned with Republicans than the Democrats, and that they had been for some time. The Democrats in Louisiana were not sorry to see me go. We bickered constantly. In truth, party membership never meant that much to me. My ideas didn't change when I became a Republican in 2007. If anything, the parties had shifted, and I was simply giving a name to a turn that had occurred a long time ago. It didn't help, though. In November 2008, the Democrats swept the nation just as the Republicans had done 4 years earlier. Barack Obama and Joe Biden took the White House, and I lost my second U.S. Senate race.
Go past this light, then at the next one, turn right.
To incumbent Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu. 50.
At the light, turn right onto West 5th Street, then arrive at your destination.
2% to 46%. A Libertarian and 2 independents got the remainder.
Siri, cancel navigation.
Right.
Ending navigation.
I took the loss full in the face and decided to keep going. It hurt deeply, of course, and I hate losing. But I've always had a thick skin, and I liked the job I had already. Sometimes when one door closes, you've got to get a hammer and some nails and make sure that SOB stays shut. But that wasn't the case here. Failure's not falling down. It's not getting up, I read once. I knew I'd try again if I had the opportunity. As I continued to do my work as treasurer of Louisiana, I never lost the desire to serve my state in the United States Senate. 8 years later, during the strange political environment of 2016, I decided to take one more shot at it. And this time, I won. Here's how.
Siri, give me directions to home.
Chapter 6. Sweet victory. Took long enough. In the fall of 2016, I stood on the stage at Dillard University
Siri, give me directions to
in
home.
New Orleans. As a third-time candidate for the United States Senate for the final debate of the first primary campaign. With me were 5 other candidates, 4 of whom were decent people. The 5th was David Duke. In the years since I'd last encountered him, when he was in the state legislature and I was working for Governor Romer, and when Duke ran unsuccessfully for governor, he continued to try to convince people he had morphed into Bambi's baby brother. For one thing, he'd gotten plastic surgery. His new nose was patrician-like. He could have used the old one to open a can of Vienna sausage. He also continued to claim he was a born-again Christian. He'd also gotten in some trouble. In 2002, he pleaded guilty to mail fraud and filing a false tax return. The authorities accused him of raising money by telling supporters he was broke, then using the money they gave him for personal expenses and gambling trips. He was sentenced to 15 months in prison and released in May of 2004. By that time, most Louisianians had figured out that Duke was a snapperhead who had a fatal attraction to nutty ideas and rejected his racism, his anti-Semitism, and his lies. Nonetheless, he had a kernel of support, enough to mount a semi-serious campaign for the United States Senate.
Starting route to 9908 Dalright Drive. Head southeast on Chambers Street.
A Senate race had been a goat rodeo so far, even by Louisiana standards. There were 24 candidates, including me, ranging from Duke, a former congressman, 2 sitting congressmen,
At the next stop sign, turn left.
and a guy named Crawdaddy Crawford. Raising money, as always, was tough. When the 2 sitting congressmen
At the stop sign, turn left onto I.M. Terrell Circle North, then take the first left.
I was running against ran out of campaign funds, they just flew to Washington and raised more. I think I received 3 checks out of Washington in the first primary, and 2 of those bounced.
Turn left, then turn left onto Martin Luther King Freeway North.
Additionally, the guy that just about every self-anointed expert, pundit, state and local politician, and state media figure pronounced the likely winner,
At the stop sign, turn left onto Martin Luther King Freeway North.
multi-termed Republican congressman from Lafayette named Charles Bustani ran into some complications that made half
In 3/4 of a mile, turn left onto East 4th Street.
valley shake. In the middle of the first primary, Ethan Brown, a respected investigative journalist and author whose work had been published in New York Magazine, the New York Observer, and Rolling Stone, and one of whose books was an editor's choice in the New York Times, published Murder
At the next stop sign, turn left.
in the Bayou, Who Killed the Women Known as the Jeff Davis 8, a book about the murders of 8 sex workers in Jefferson Davis Parish, Louisiana, from 2005 to 2008. In the book, Brown alleged, citing anonymous sources, that Congressman Bustani enjoyed the services of 3 of the 8 sex workers at a rundown motel
At the stop sign, turn left onto East 4th Street.
owned by a member of his congressional staff. The book and the allegations landed like a small earthquake. He denied them, his wife denied them, and he hired the lawyer for former Governor Bobby Jindal. I told you the politicians were against me, to sue for damages. Bustani dismissed the suit after he lost the election. Bustani
In 3/4 of a mile, turn right onto Grove Street.
accused me of fanning the story because I was the front runner in the race at the time. With God as my witness, I swear I had nothing to do with the book. I had never met Ethan Brown. I didn't even know who he was. And I had to Google the murder investigation he was writing about. But when Bustani blamed me, I pounced like a hobo on a ham sandwich. I issued the following statement. I want to be very clear that my campaign played absolutely no role in creating the story alleging Congressman Bustani's sexual relationships with prostitutes that were later murdered. His staff's alleged involvement in running the bar and hotel with this illicit babe
At the next stop sign, turn right.
took place are publishing the book. If the shoe fits, wear it, Cinderella. My statement was picked up widely, which amplified the allegations that were the top political story in the state. Back to David Duke. At the time, in Louisiana, races for the U.S. Senate
At the stop sign, turn right onto Grove Street.
were decided via jungle primary. All the candidates ran against one another, regardless of party affiliation.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto East Belknap Street.
Then the top two went head-to-head in a runoff, and the winner went to Washington. This process did simplify things, but it
Go past this light, then at the next one, turn left.
also allowed cretins like David Duke to slip in and muddy the waters.
At the light, turn left onto East Belknap Street, then take the first right onto North Commerce Street.
The bar for entry at our final debate at Dillard in New Orleans was extremely low. To qualify, a candidate only needed to show that some reputable poll had him polling above 5%. For the entire race,
Hello, man.
Duke could never do that. But in October 2016, Mason-Dixon polling and strategy showed he was receiving 5.1% support, which put him right over the line. So, on the evening of November 2nd, 2016, I found myself less than 20 feet from depravity. And Duke hadn't come alone. Outside the debate hall, in which a couple of hundred people were seated, a bunch of Duke supporters who showed up to protest and otherwise scream like they were part of a prison riot purposely kept clashing with supporters for other candidates and issues, including Black Lives Matter. If you watch a replay of the debate today, which was televised live, you can hear them pounding on the locked doors and chanting hateful slogans during the quiet moments between debate questions. I don't know how many of them there were. I was later told somewhere around 50.
At the light, turn right onto North Commerce Street.
I do know they were loud and obnoxious. It was like someone
In about 9.5 miles, turn right onto East Bailey Boswell Road.
asked ChatGPT to generate the perfect cone head, and they cloned themselves. Listening to all this from the stage was like being an extra in A Clockwork Orange. Cool movie.
video.
Look it up. For a moment, I thought the Dukesters might break through one of the side doors and overrun the audience. Duke was loving it. He seemed to know that he had a captive television audience.
The old town where the
and the
cattle run.
attention of every member of the
That'll be on the video,
considerable
too.
number of media in the room. He looked so smug. As Lyndon Johnson used to say, he looked like he could strut sitting down. Of course, Duke proceeded to make a spectacle of himself during the debate. The television reporter who was moderating had difficulty keeping him under control. Duke would talk out of turn and refused to stop talking when his time was up. As soon as I learned I would be sharing a stage with Duke, I began to think about how to handle this guy. I was running first in the polls at the time, and I knew he had attacked me. So I decided to look up his federal prisoner number, which I don't remember, but let's call it 12345-678, and memorized it. Every time Duke attacked me from the debate stage, I would wait patiently for him to finish. Then, when it was my turn to respond, I did not call him David or Mr. Duke. Instead, I said, federal prisoner number 12345-678 is wrong, and here's why. Now, Duke had always been an angry man. Maybe he's still mad someone dented his car in high school, though it probably goes back further than that. Anyway, subtlety does not become me.
Railroad crossing ahead.
And this was a campaign anyway. And what I did worked. Every time I called Duke by his federal prisoner number, he became angry. Don't go away mad, Duke. Just go away. So naturally, I continued to do it. The more outraged he became and the more time he took up, the better it was for me anyway. Since I was running first, all I had to do was get out of the debate in one piece. I never told any of my campaign staff that I was going to do this on live television. Of course, I knew they would try to talk me out of it. It was a gamble, but it worked. When the votes were cast for the first primary, David Duke got just 3% of the vote. I led with Democrat Public Service Commissioner Foster Campbell coming in second. Duke's showing made me even prouder of Louisiana. That same night, like everyone else, I also learned that Donald Trump, the real estate mogul from Manhattan,
Lamborghini,
had defeated Hillary Clinton to take the White House. The experts got this race wrong too. Note to my listeners, in politics, the experts are almost always wrong, and they are almost always the same. Didactic, tendentious, high-minded, convinced that they have infallible minds and superior instincts, when in fact a penny for their thoughts would be pricey. And they are usually liberal, partial to man purses and organic broccoli. If you showed these people a handgun, you would have to explain to them that the end with the hole in it is the dangerous part. Did I mention that these guys are almost always wrong? Trump and I were both Republicans, and our party made an impressive showing in races all over the country. But unlike the victors in some of these races, I still had to win one more time because of Louisiana's unique election system before I could officially become a United States Senator. As soon as Foster Campbell and I were declared the winners of the jungle primary, a runoff election was scheduled for early December. Of course, many people weren't paying attention to my race at the time. They were more concerned with figuring out how Donald Trump and his campaign had pulled off the political upset of the century. I had a few ideas about that. In my opinion, Donald Trump was successful because he preached that our future could be better than our present and our past, but not unless we changed a few things. I've been saying that for years. President Trump and I are very different people in personality and style, and sometimes we disagree on issues. But Trump and I are alike in that we both believe in limited government, personal responsibility, and that the impossible is often just the untried. We believe that it's not inconsistent to think that America has made mistakes, but that it's still the best friend freedom has ever had. We also don't lose sleep over the approval of our peers. We're more interested in the aspirations of our people. That's why they call us crazy, misfits, troublemakers, rebels. That's Washington speak for, you're not doing it the way we like. Our response? The way you've been doing it sucks. We're both running dogs, not porch dogs. We may not get invited to too many parties, but we get results. We believe you've got to seize your future, not fear it. And we know one thing for certain. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And what we've got in Washington is a credentialed, ruling elite that cares more about keeping their jobs than doing their jobs. Trump won, in my opinion, because he understood something simple but profound. Washington is not America. And most people in America loathe Washington. In D.C., they worry about polls, privilege, power,